So I think it's time to put this 330 back on the lift. Got to move some cars out of the way and get it in position so I can actually look at a couple things that need to happen before I put the engine in. This engine is ready to go, but I have a couple things that I still have to hunt down and work on before I can actually really get it started and fire it up. I mean, I could fire it up outside the car, or I could fire it up inside the car, and I think I'm gonna fire it up inside the car. Luckily with the 330, it's not much trouble to take it out if there's a problem. You know, as an example, if I put the headers on outside of the car, I got to take the headers off and then put them back in. So it's 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. Is that, you know, how I start, where I start this engine. But before I do any of this stuff, I actually have to find some headers. These headers have been replaced, repaired, and, you know, rusty and all that other stuff. They're rotting probably on the inside. It looks like some JB weld was put on it, and yeah, I've been looking for a new set of headers. I think the new ones are available, but they're not cheap. I think they're like $700-800 a piece, if you can find them. And then what I did was, as I was looking inside, some of them, like this one's pretty bad. It shows that it's got weld on it, but one of them is also cracked. So, you know, you've got 2 out of the 4 headers on this car. And then the problem is I found one that someone had. You can feel the difference in sound. Like, let's just listen to the sound of that one, how thin it is. And you listen to this one, you could tell that this one has so much more meat on it. So that's what a good header sounds like. And these just have this hollow, broken sound to them. So I think it's better to find new headers. So right now I'm looking for a set of used ones, but getting the right one, because you can see they're all different shapes, and how do you know? And some of them are longer and shorter. I've probably learned more about 330 headers than I ever want to know. And one of the things I found out is there's 2 types of 330 headers. There's 330 GTC, and then there's 332 plus 2. The 332 plus 2s, the engines are slightly different because some of them come with a 2-mount engine and some of them come with a 4-mount engine. I was concerned that would change the shape of the header and the way it goes into the bolt onto the block. But what I found out was the 2 plus 2 headers are the same regardless of the engine mount. So as long as it's 2 plus 2, they should be the same header. However, you have people who are selling, you have to know whether or not they have a GTC header, 330 GTC, or a 332 plus 2. But that's just you know, searching and all this other stuff. The other problem is they got to know which ones are which. Are they the front header, or are they the rear header? So trying to find a set that's reasonably priced and also that will fit has been quite a challenge. So that's another thing that I have to do on this car, is find the headers. Regardless if I'm ready to fire up the engine, I still need to figure out the headers. The other thing I need to do is plumb some of the oil lines. There's a oil pressure sender that's back here that has to be plugged in, and that one goes to the gauge on the dash. So I need to put a new oil line in. That oil line is, I think, $10 an inch. At least the last time. It's probably now $11 an inch because prices are going up. So I need to measure that and get some brown oil hose to come in. You know, and while I'm doing it, I need the fuel line hose, the yellow fuel line hose. So I'll need to get that ordered up as well. Fuel pump needs to be plumbed in. Let's see what else. I need to get a thermostat for this car. So before I bolt this thing in, I have to put a thermostat in. What else? And then the other thing I have to do is inside the car. So this car has a hydraulic clutch. So this is the clutch master. And it went down a line like this, and goes and bolts, and then it has a flex line that goes to this clutch slave. This line I need to fabricate because obviously it was rusty and snapped off there, and you know, I'm going to get a new clutch master. This one's obviously gone. Luckily this is available new, so I can get that, but I'm going to use this to kind of get everything in line, and then that way when I order this I could just, you know, it should plug right back in. But this line I want to install before the engine goes in, because this goes, so it comes down, plugs into there, that's where the clutch master goes, and then this line goes into it from the top and then runs down here, and there's a stud down there that it bolts to. So it's going to be a lot easier to install this with the engine out of the car than trying to do it with the engine installed. So I'm going to do this first, and then it's the same thing, like all this other stuff I got to just double check to make sure it's ready to go, because once the engine's in, it makes it a lot more difficult to install the rest of the stuff. I'm going to work this week to get all the little details right before I put the engine in and everything else goes in. So let me get to work. So I installed the engine into the 330 GT 2+2 that I've been restoring at the shop. Got the engine back, but just needed to find some time to get it put into the car. It's normally a two-man job, but I decided to try doing it by myself, with the only fear of getting it over the front of the car. But I carefully hoisted it, managed to do it. If I went nice and slow, I was able to get everything to line up, and it dropped actually fairly well in place. This was a 2-mount 330 engine, so getting it just to line up with 2 bolts was not too bad. I struggled with thinking about firing up the engine outside of the car, and whether I should just fire it on the bench or if I should just put it in the car. The reason why I finally decided to put it in the car to fire it up was simply because the exhaust still needed to be hung. It was came in pieces which needed to be welded together. Putting it on the engine outside of the car just brought up all these other issues about getting it welded in place and tacked and all that other stuff, and then I'd have to get it all lined up in the car. So I decided the easier way was just put the engine into the car, line up the exhaust, and get it going that way, so I could fire it up inside the car. But of course, all these things had to be hooked up. So I put the transmission in just so I can get the exhaust to line up, because the transmission affected the angle of the engine. So when I installed the transmission, that allowed the angle to be correct with the exhaust, and then therefore I could get the headers lined up and all the exhaust to hangers and everything in place. Once I got everything tacked into place, I took the exhaust off again and sent it out for final welding, so that I had everything seam welded and nice and straight. Then I put the exhaust back in and permanently put everything in place. There's quite a bit of stuff. I mean, the headers got installed, and I still need to put in some hardware and get that in, but I had to get the wiring in. I had to get this coolant hose in, the heater hoses and all that other stuff. So it's just it's just a bunch of little things. I had to hook up the fuel lines and get the regulator in, wire in the ignition system and the coils, get all that in. So it's just each step of the way is just one step at a time to get the engine in. The next thing I'm going to work on is the radiator. I spoke to the owner. We decided we're going to put a modern fan in so it can keep cool. So before I kind of put the rest of the front of this engine together, I want to put the get a modern electric fan kind of mocked in place, and we're going to do that next. And then I could fire up this engine. So just got a bunch of little things that I still need to do, but it's getting there. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start this car for the first time. I've primed it. Let me see. I have ignition off. I'm going to turn off the ignition. I'm just going to crank it over a little bit. Okay, so that's spinning over pretty well. What I'm going to do is I am going to go turn on the ignition. I'm not going to run it for that long, just simply because I want to make sure I don't want to run too much in here, simply because I don't want to have too much exhaust inside the shop. I'll put the car with the tail outside once I get it going. What I want to do is just confirm I have oil pressure. So let me take this to the other side. I just squirt a little bit of fuel in there. Make sure I have a fire extinguisher nearby. Here we go. Doesn't feel like there's ignition going on in here. Okay, so I checked the timing, and I had actually installed the distributors 180 degrees out. Yeah, it happens. I think the times I've taken this distributor, timed it, retimed it, and then it's really easy to put, you know, Ferrari distributors 180 degrees out of whack, so it wasn't firing at all. So now I'm putting the spark plug back in because I had to check for top dead center on number 1, which confirmed my timing was off. So now I'm putting this spark plug back in, and then once I get that in, we can start firing it up again. Come on. These spark plugs are so far in there, sometimes it's hard to get them to snap in. There it goes. Okay. Ignition on. Give it a little bit of a squirt. Let's see what happens. Look at that. Fired right up. That's the oil pressure. Oops. Making a weird noise though. Oh, just ran out of gas. All right, well, it started. Very cool. So this installment of Ferrari Mechanic Struggle of the Week involves electrics. It's usually not just a Ferrari mechanic struggle, but it's everyone's struggle. If you use these little fuses, these ceramic fuses, you're going to run into the same problems that I'm having, which is the fact that they're no longer made out of ceramic, these holders. They're made out of thermoplastic. Well, the problem with thermoplastic is as it gets warm from use or high resistance, they melt. And then when they melt, they don't hold the metallic fuse in place anymore. And the looser it gets, the more it starts to overheat. And the more it overheats, the more it melts, and then it eventually stops connection. So a lot of times I have these old fuses, and I will keep the old fuses because they actually work better than the new plastic ones. You could see these new plastic ones up top that they have new fittings on them, or new fusible material on there, but they're made out of plastic, and I'm worried that as they warm up, they may stop working. So the bottom ones are made out of ceramic, and I've kind of kept them, cleaned them up, and reusing them. The other problem I have, which is this junction block, as I was cleaning things up, I noticed it was deformed. And it's really just connects all those wires together into one junction block. And the problem there is I can't remember where I've seen this junction block before. I'd love to replace it with a similar one, but I can't seem to remember where I saw it or where it's available. So, you know, actually, you might be able to help me. If you know where I can get something like that, I'd love some advice, because I'm not connected with the right people that have these pieces, but Yeah, I could have it remade. I could have it 3D printed, but the problem with it is that usually these things have like a brass connector inside. It's got this little plastic outer piece that, as you can see, has overheated. I'd love to replace it. I could just put a regular junction block in there, but you know, it'd be nice to have it look exactly the same. Yeah, electrics are always a struggle, and you just gotta go through, clean everything up, and check all the circuits and make sure everything's working.